I had to go to Toyota so I went in there and okay. Sure, go for it.
See it?
Will my presentation go up on the screen?
I love your hair. That's the coolest hair ever. I was like, thank you. Awesome.
To be over for a couple of months.
It's okay.
Gingers.
Come on. You're fine. You're amongst friends.
Are we ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our June 15th, 2022 board meeting. I'd like to start the meeting by saying we are giving thanks and acknowledge that the lands on which we work and learn are the traditional territories of the Gitxsan, Haisla, Nisga'a, Tsimshian, and Wet'suwet'en peoples. We're honored to work with their children and privileged to live on these lands. Secondly, I'd like to give a warm welcome to everybody who has joined us this evening, either in person or via Zoom. And our meeting is also live streamed through CMSD's 82's YouTube channel. I'm going to start by introducing ourselves as trustees and have Janet introduce her colleagues who are present with us. And then we'll do some special introductions of guests that are with us. So I'm Margaret Warkup. I'm the chair of the board at this time, and I'll go this way.
I'm trustee Sharon Corey from Hazelton. Sandra Watson, Thornhill.
Angela Brandenuser, trustee from Stewart.
Ed Harrison, trustee from Terrace.
And Karen?
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen Yonkman, trustee for Kitimat.
Janet, would you like to introduce yourself and your team?
Absolutely. My name is Janet Meyer, and I'm the superintendent of schools for Coast Mountain School District. And then perhaps we could go to Kieran.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Kiran Bath, and I'm Director of Human Resources.
Ginger.
I'm Ginger Fuller. I'm the Secretary Treasurer for School District 82.
I'm Robert Shibley. I'm the Director of Facility Services for the School District 82.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie LaCaz, Director of Instruction Learner Support.
And we have regrets from the Director of Instruction for Graduation and Innovation, Geraldine Waller.
And Carol?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carol Gagnon. I'm the Executive Assistant.
Thank you all. So tonight is a special night in terms of it is Janet, our superintendent's last Board of Trustees meetings with us, and we'll do some honors in just a moment after we do some announcements. But firstly, I'd like to introduce our special guests that are behind me, because I think it's very special that Janet's mom, Sharon, is here. Welcome. Thank you. And your brother, Richard, all the way around. And Kyla, great to see you again, Janet's daughter. Today, I'd like to report on a couple of things. First of all, National Indigenous Peoples Day is a day of recognizing and celebrating the cultures and contributions of our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis Indigenous peoples in Canada. This day was first celebrated as National Aboriginal Day in 1996 after it was proclaimed here by the then Governor General of Canada to be celebrated on the 21st of June every year. In Coast Mountain School District, we celebrate this opportunity to learn, grow, and embrace our First Nations cultures of our region. Students will take part in a variety of learning opportunities during the month of June, including traditional foods, cooking, storytelling, learning about traditional dance, drum making, Indigenous arts, and learning about our local Indigenous culture. This month recognizes the unique histories of Indigenous peoples and also the LGBTQ community while focusing on their resilience in the face of discrimination and their struggles for equity. So this month we are also celebrating Pride. Our SOGI and GSA groups across the district have held initiatives and celebrations throughout the year and have painted staircases in the rainbow flag colors at many of our schools, including the Board of Education office, to represent inclusion in all of our school communities. We have, as a district, taken direct action to look at equity and have thus have equity as a focus in our strategic plan. Therefore, in everything we do, we are working hard towards having a safe, flexible, and culturally responsive learning environment for everyone. Each child and all of our staff deserve to be treated with equity and respect, to be given every opportunity to create the world of their choosing. It's the end of the year, and many graduating classes and celebrations are happening at this time, including employee service awards and retirements that will be held throughout the school district this month. We wish all of our staff and students a well-deserved, enjoyable, and safe summer holidays. Now I get to do the special part of appreciating and extending sincere thanks to Janet Myers, who is retiring August 31st, 2022. And she's not going to look at me as I look at her. Okay. As a respected leader in education, Janet is always guided by your commitment for the success of all learners and your dedication to public education, your colleagues, and your ability to lead changes in our district. Thank you, Janet, for your dedication to public education through your exceptional years of service. And I thought it was 35. That must be on the next page. 35 years of service. We're very grateful for your devoted years of service in public education and to Coast Mountain 82. So we wish you the best and for a happy and healthy retirement. I have a couple of treasures to present to you. First is your golden apple. Shall we stand and we can there we go. Thank you for your years of service.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Get the picture. Oh. Okay. And secondly, a small gift and your pin indicating 35 years of service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Warcup. If I may just if the board would indulge me very quickly, I'd like to make a few points, and the first point I'd like to make is I'd like to acknowledge the 4 territories on which I have spent the last 35 years, and over the last 6 years spent more time on the other 3 outside of the Haisla territory. I've been honored to be welcomed on those territories, and honored and deeply motivated to improve the outcomes for Indigenous learners. People say that there can't be reconciliation unless there's truth. There wasn't when I started in this profession, I knew about residential schools not very deeply. There was not truth when I started. Now there is truth. There is no hiding from the truth of what this country was and did to Indigenous peoples in this country. And I'm proud of the work we've done thus far. I look forward to the day when we do not have to measure graduation rates for Indigenous students and non-Indigenous students. So to all the people on the Niska, Sinshan, Haisla, and Gitxsan territory, there are so many people that I met that will forever have a place in my heart, and I thank them for that. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for their trust, their support, and their guiding words at times. You knew that you were getting a rookie when you called me back from Campbell River 3 years ago, and you got a rookie. But during that time, you worked with me and you allowed us as a team in this district to do the operational work that is our work to do. And I very much appreciate your support, especially over the past 3 years. Thirdly, I need to thank all the people that I've ever worked with in Coast Mountain School District. And I know that there are some people in Kitimat who would say, you started in school district, whatever it was called. I'm not there, I don't go there. I will be a retiree of Coast Mountain School District number 82, and that is what I will remember. But whether it was in 1987 or it is in 2021, there are so many remarkable educators, custodians, educational assistants. There are so many people that I met that have taught me so very much, and I'm very grateful for that. And not quite most importantly, but almost the most important, I would like to thank the students of Coast Mountain School District, because they are amazing. They are smart, they are kind, they are socially just, and they know what type of world they want to live in, and they motivate me on a daily basis, and I'm super grateful for them. And last, and yes, most importantly, I'd like to acknowledge my family, because as much as I might tell people about work-life balance and how important it is, there are people here and there are people on Zoom who know that I didn't necessarily do it as well as I ought to have done it. And my children both entered the world as a child of a vice principal or a child of a principal, and they've never known anything different. And that they haven't suffered, don't get me wrong, they seem to be doing just fine, but I look forward to a time when I can be more present for my family, and I'd like to acknowledge the support of, in particular, my matriarch in my family, and that would be my mother. Because when I talk about women in leadership, and I talk about people who have come before me here in this place, or in other sites in Coast Mountain School District, they are all leaders, but my mother is the leader of our family, and I have some qualities, some that I'm grateful for. So I thank you. And to my family, I'll be around. So thank you very much.
I think we can all take a deep breath now. Janet, you can just, relax there a little bit, and I'll just do a couple of other reminders and we'll get into the meeting and get out into this beautiful sunshine. Just to note that our next board meeting will be Wednesday, September 28th at 5 o'clock, and it will be a hybrid meeting as well. And I'd like to just wish everybody a happy summer holidays. Let's continue to be safe and be well. So I would like to call our meeting to order and get started as we go down the agenda. We have a quorum. We do have one trustee who is missing with us today. Ray Raj has been excused from the meeting. But we do have a quorum, so I now need a motion for the approval of the agenda. So moved by Shar.
I'll second.
Second by Angela. All in favor? Pass. Thank you. Next is the approval of the minutes of the prior meeting, which was May 15th, 2022. A motion for approval. Angela and Ed. Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Passed. Next, 5.1, a receipt of the records of the in-camera meeting of May 15th, 2022. A motion, please.
So moved.
Angela, seconder. Somebody, please. Ed, thank you. All in favor? Passed. Thank you. There was no business arising from the minutes to report, and there's no correspondence been received. We'll now move to the Superintendent of Schools monthly report for June 2022. Your last report, Janet. So go ahead and share a little bit, and then we'll have a motion to receive your report.
I think I've taken up enough time, but I would like to highlight for people the component of my superintendent's report that deals with the well-being of students in our school district in grades 5, 6, and 8. This is the first year we've been using the MDI, which is the middle years index. People may be familiar with something we do use at the kindergarten level, which is the EDI, which stands for the Early Development Index, which gives us an array of information around vulnerabilities in students coming into kindergarten. The MDI is designed to provide us with information around the well-being and the connectedness of students in grades, well, for us, grades 5, 6, and 8. Next year we will be including grade 7 in the MDI, and you can see as you look through the results from the grade 5, 6s, and 8s that they tell us something. They're telling us very clearly, particularly at the grade 8 level, that was most concerning to me in terms of the number of children. 64% of grade 8s in Coast Mountain School District are low as it relates to the thriving assets. And that is significant, and that is something that we ought to pay attention to come September. A celebration, if you will, I would like to draw your attention to the assets index, which are the multicolored brown squares. It talks about an asset is something like, I have a relationship with adults, I have good peer relationships, I have after school activities, I get good nutrition and sleep. An asset or something to celebrate in our district is the fact that the asset of adult relationships is extremely high in our district. And that goes to, we also do a student learning survey on an annual basis, and it asks the students the question, are you confident that there are 2 or more adults in the school who care about you and believe in you? That question ties directly to that, and that is a good number, and that makes me feel good about the support that students are getting in our schools, and that needs to, a thank you needs to go out to the people who make those connections with students so that they can feel safe and welcome in their own school. Thank you,
Janet. Can I have a motion for receipt of her report? Shar, thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Angela. Any trustees wish to make any comment or question to Janet on her report? I had one reading through it, if I could, and that was the number of children that are struggling for food security. And I would like to compliment the staff who have been working really hard, and I know Ginger's beside me here, trying to ensure that there is food security in our schools, and we are feeding children, but that is still a huge challenge for us. So I'd like to have that noted, and thank you for keep working on it. Yeah. Okay, we can move forward now to number 9, standing committee.
Clarification.
Oh, sorry, all in favor? Thank you. Yeah, I can't have 2 thoughts at once. Passed. Thank you. I'd like to move forward now to the business committee report, and trustee Ed Harrison is going to present that for us.
Thank you, Chair. 9.11, the business committee minutes from June the 8th, 2022. I would move that we accept those. I would move that we accept them.
Yeah. Seconder
Is there
Sharp.
a second?
All in favor? Passed.
9.12, the 2023-2024 5-year capital plan index, call for projects. I would move that we accept that.
Seconder for the motion. It's on page 21.
I think
2021.
we have to put forward the motion, the recommendation for clarification. So you actually have to read the motion, I believe. Recommended action. Is that right?
Yes.
Are we on 9.?
Page
21.
9.1.2.
Page 21, 9.12. Did you lose
I
your,
think traditionally we just read the background and he'll move the motion.
Okay.
so the motion that Ed is putting forward, do you want to find your page there, Ed, or do you want me to read it for you?
I think you better read it.
Okay, the recommended action is that the board approve the 2023-2024 5-year capital plan, major and minor capital projects, submission to the Ministry of Education's Capital Management Branch. Moved by Ed, seconded by Sharp. Any questions on the capital plans? All in favor? Pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Move to 9.13, the 2022-2023 annual budget report for the bylaw. And there is a handout, separate handout on that motion. And I would like to introduce the Secretary Treasurer, Ginger Fuller, who will present a PowerPoint on that motion.
All yours.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is just a presentation on the process of the budget and where we have landed for this year and what we will be asking for from the board. So this year our budget was specifically designed to align with our strategic plan for 22 to 27. Our mission, vision, and values were in consideration by all departments when putting together the plan. Our strategic goals that were also a front of thought are create student success, number 2, diversity, and number 3, organizational wellness. So this slide here talks to us about our sources of revenue and where they come from. So 95% of our revenue comes from the Ministry of Education, and then we have other revenues that come from local education, tuition agreements, investment incomes, rentals, leases, and other provincial grants. And so today we'll be looking at operating funds and special purpose funds specifically. To highlight for this year that there was no increases in the supplements across the board for the Ministry of Education and Childcare, and so the rates in which we are funded by student on basic allocations, special needs levels 1 through 3, English language learners, Indigenous education, and non-graduated adults has remained the same, which has added to some of the difficulties when preparing the budget. So for 22-23, we projected enrollment increase of 154 FTEs for this year. Our total funding for 22-23 is 54.1 million, and last year was 53.8. This only gives the district about $300,000 increase from the previous year, yet we have 154 new full-time equivalents. This situation is a result of two things. One, no increases in the supplement funding, as well as with the increase of student FTEs, we fall outside of funding protection. And so we are now being funded directly based on the number of students in our district. For those who don't know, funding protection is an agreed amount of funding that is given to a district up to 98.5% of the previous year to ensure ongoing programs and able to fund costs across the district when there is a drop in enrollment. So the 22-23 proposed annual budget has a total proposed budget bylaw for the year of $66.19 million. Of that, $55.05 million, or 83% of that, is from the operating funds. Special purpose funds is $7.8 million, and that's 12%, and capital funding is $3.16 million, and equivalent and equates to 5% of the overall budget. So operating expenses. The proposed annual budget includes estimated significant cost increase in the following areas. So there has been a number of areas that we've seen increases across the board. Our unionized staff has step increments based on seniority, and for teaching staff, our average rate for a teacher went up by $2,000, and that's the rate that we use to average our costs for education instruction. We had to enter into a new agreement for student transportation, and I'm happy to say that it was a much better outcome than I had originally anticipated, but it is a new rate, and of course there is increases in fuel costs that will continue to probably rise in the next little bit. And electricity, gas, and propane are on the rise. Climate change and harsher winter, we had to increase our budget by around $230,000 this year. We're seeing the need for more mental health supports, not only in students, but with our employees. There's new paid sick leave, 5 days for casual employees under the Employment Standards Act that had to be considered. And of course, inflation on all supplies and services across the board. These are some of the assumptions that we made when preparing the budget. There were no pay increases calculated. Currently, both BCTF and QB are still in bargaining, and so there's no way of estimating that cost. So we are making the assumption that any increases negotiated will be fully funded by the Ministry of Education and Child Care. That increases in teaching FTE will be fully funded by the Classroom Enhancement Fund due to class size and composition. Salaries and benefits are based on known general average rates, and cost pressures, primarily from inflation and statutory requirements, will be will be considered for all expenditures, including employee benefits, student transportation, and utilities. Sorry, I really hate reading slides.
You're doing fine.
The Budget Working Committee, which is comprised of partners of the district and district staff, met 3 times this year. Our last meeting, which would have been our 4th, was canceled to the internet outage of 2022. We were presented with a budget shortfall in the end of about 1.2 million after all the work was completed through all district departments. A particular focus of the committee was to keep cuts away from the classroom and that there be minimum effect on students. So some recommended adjustments that were made, we have put in to access some surplus holiday for extended health benefits to increase revenues. We forecast an increase in interest revenue from investments due to the increase in prime rate. We forecast an increase in IT funding due to increased number of students and programs. We decrease equipment replacement costs for facility and maintenance, reductions in supplies and resource expenses, and a reduction in software licenses and fees. So the 22-23 proposed budget allocation expenses by object of the total of 55.05 million, 5% is on transportation, 15% on operations and maintenance, 5% on district administration, and 75% on instruction. So, and this is the breakdown of the same 55.05 million. 17% of that is on on supplies and services. Benefits for staff is 16% and salaries are 67%. And this slide represents our special for purpose funding. It's a bit busy, but it's just a quick breakdown. The numbers are within the budget itself, but these are the different pots of funding that we're getting under special purpose funds that add up to the 7.98 million. So we come down to our proposed budgeted income statement. A motion hopefully will be put forward to the Board of Education to access $346,557 from local capital in order to balance the 2022-23 proposed annual budget to zero. We have operating revenue of 54 million, expenses of just over 55 million. It gives us a net expenditure over revenue of $903,557. Of that, we have an opening surplus estimated for this year of $517,000, and of course looking for the motion to transfer from local capital the $586,557 to bring our balance to zero.
Yeah.
Thank you, Judge. So the 9.13, there is a meeting handout, pages 1 through 16, and that was distributed separately with the information. And so I'd like to read the 2022-23 annual budget bylaw. Reference the attached 2022-2023 annual budget bylaw and budget version 38823136-1154. As directed by the board, the Budget Working Committee has fulfilled its mandate and has provided a broad opportunity for input into the decision-making regarding the 2022-2023 preliminary annual budget. The Business Committee has reviewed the preliminary annual budget at its June 8, 2022 meeting and brings forward for the board's consideration and adoption. Approval is required by the board to use a portion of the restricted local capital reserves in the amount of $386,557 to balance the 2022-2023 annual operating budget. A bylaw of the Coast Mountain Board of Education, School District 82 is required to adopt the annual budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023 pursuant to Section 113 of the School Act as detailed in the attached bylaw. I move that the board approve the transfer of $386,557 from the local capital reserve to the 2022-2023 annual operating budget.
Is there a seconder for the motion?
I'll second.
Shar? Thank you. Any question? Angela?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sir?
That money that's being transferred from the local capital reserve, does it have to get put back into the local capital reserve as we can, or it just?
No, at this point in time, I haven't considered the repayment of that as we do with when we do a capital purchase, such as vehicles, we do a 4-year repayment. That has not been contemplated in this request.
Further questions? All in favor? Passed. Thank you.
Okay, the annual budget bylaw, a bylaw of the Board of Education of School District number 82, Coast Mountain, called the board to adopt the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2022-2023 pursuant to Section 113 of the School Act, RSBC 1996 C412, as amended from time to time, called the Act. One, the board has complied with the provision of the Act, provisions of the Act, ministerial orders and Ministry of Education policies respecting the annual budget adopted by this bylaw. This bylaw may be cited by School District 82 Coast Mountain's annual budget bylaw for the fiscal year 2022-2023. The attached statement 2 shows the estimated revenue and expenses for the 2022-2023 fiscal year and the total budget bylaw amount of $66,193,067 for the 2022-2023 fiscal year was prepared in accordance with the Act. Statements 2, 4, and Schedules 2 to 4 are adopted as the annual budget of the board for the fiscal year 2022-2023. This is the first reading of the Act.
Seconder for the motion for the first reading? Angela, thank you. Any question? All in favor? Passed.
Okay. Read it a second time. Okay. I move that the 2022-2023 annual budget bylaw and budget version 3882-316-1154 be read a second time the 15th day of June 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Shar. All in favor? Passed.
Oh, sorry. Point, nothing. I just didn't see all the hands up.
Oh, yeah. I keep looking out the corner of my eye to see if Karen, yeah. So now we need to have a unanimous approval by the board to go to third reading. So moved that we all go to third reading. Needs everybody? Sandy? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Third reading of the Act that the 2022-2023 annual budget bylaw and budget version 3882-3136-1154 be read a third time, passed and adopted the 15th day of June 2022.
Second.
Thank you, Shar. All in favor? Passed. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Harrison. Lots to read there. Yeah, and lots to think through. Can we have the Education Committee report from Trustee Angela?
Thank you, Chair. the education committee meeting was held on June 8th. So, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes of the education committee meeting held on June 8th be received for information.
Seconder? Thank you, Shar. All in favor? Thank you. 9.22, page 53.
So the background discussion on this one is that at the February 2018 regular board meeting, the board adopted the Indigenous Enhancement Agreement and authorized the implementation of the Enhancement Agreement goals by district staff within the schools of Coast Mountain School District 82. The Indigenous Enhancement Agreement is intended to guide and support the daily education of Indigenous students and to emphasize the commitment of all professionals in recognizing the importance of Indigenous history and culture in their regular practice. The end goal is to improve the success of all Indigenous learners within Coast Mountain School District 82 with equitable opportunity to achieve the Dogwood Diploma. The Indigenous Enhancement Agreement is the school district's commitment to the education of our Indigenous learners, whereas the Local Education Agreement is a legal agreement that relates to funding and education services. Funding and education services. Coast Mountain School District is focused on improving school success for young people of Indigenous heritage in all district schools. An important part of that focus is to observe and measure student performance and participation in school academic, culture activities, and to report publicly on it. Due to a major telecommunication outage, or as it's called, the outage of 2022, on June 7th, the hybrid district Indigenous Education Committee meeting scheduled that day with the majority of committee participants attending virtually, unfortunately, could not take place. On the recommendation of the Education Committee, the third Indigenous Enhancement Agreement annual report for the period of March 2021 to June 2022 is presented to the board for information. So I would like to make a motion that the board receive the Indigenous Enhancement Agreement annual report for the period of March 2021 to June 2022 and forwards a copy to the Indigenous Education branch of the Ministry of Education and Child Care as evidence of the strong Indigenous student success focus that the school district is committed to.
Seconder, Shar? Any questions? Yeah. Yes?
I'd just like to make a note that trustees were also at the think tank. So in the first paragraph, it just says district leadership team. So if that could be added in there, that the trustees also attended the think tank.
Absolutely. Other comments? Thoughts? Okay, all in favor of receiving this report and forwarding it? Thank you. Passed. Okay, we move to new business. Bear Valley School, level 5 field trip to the Long Lake Hydroelectric Dam. It's on pages 94 to 100. Did you want to speak to that, Janet?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So we talk often about the fact that Coast Mountain School District is a unique school district and it has 5 very, very distinct communities, and Stewart is no different. Stewart has, the students of Bear Valley School have the opportunity to visit a hydroelectric dam located in British Columbia on Long Lake. However, to get to that lake, they need to drive from Stewart to the Canadian-Alaskan border and then drive 18 kilometers on Alaskan territory before they then would cross the border again to get to the powerhouse. And I know that the board is aware of their field trip policies in our school district. In accordance with the policy, field trips out of province require board approval in principle and final board approval within 60 days. The Bear Valley teacher wishes to take the group tomorrow. And as such, this educator has all of the plans in place including the assurances that they will not there won't be barriers either crossing from Stewart to the US or from the US into Canada again and vice versa. The staff at Bear Valley School understand the board's position on field trips. However, they are asking for an exemption in this case.
Char?
I'll make the motion. I think that, I don't know what else to say on that.
Did the board approve that Bear
That
Valley?
I can read it. I see
Okay.
it. I got it.
Okay.
That the board approved the Bear Valley Out of Province field trip to the Long Lake Hydroelectric Dam on June 16, 2022, at no cost to the board, subject to ensuring the safety of students and the requirement of personal travel documentation throughout the travel dates.
Seconder?
I'll second it.
Any further questions, comments? Ed?
The motion reads like they're traveling to the United States for the field trip, but in fact they're passing through Canada, through the United States to Long Lake, so they're not stopping in the United States. So I think that should be clear. So they're not going to an American place, they're going to a Canadian place by geography.
Do you wish an amendment to the motion?
Just to clarify that the trip does not involve stopping in the United States, but rather passing through the United States to Canada.
Okay. That comfortable with the motion? Sure. Okay. All in favor? Passed. Thank you. 10.2, the draft 2022-2023 internal administrative calendar on pages 101. Do you also wish to speak to that, Janet, or?
I don't think it requires a great deal of explanation. It is an annual calendar that we prepare for the board's business that occurs on a monthly basis and shows important dates. So I offer it to you for your
Is there a motion to accept this calendar? Thank you, Shar. Seconder, Ed? Any question? All in favor? Passed. On page 103 and 4 is my board chair report. Could I have a motion to receive the report? Thank you, Angela. Seconder, Shar. Any question or comment? All in favor? Passed. Do any trustees have some reports that they would like to share with us? Yeah, thank you.
I'd just like to recognize Rachel Mulder and the grad committee, which is coming up. There's always a lot of work attached to that. We appreciate that. Also that Jeff Carr is, I believe, retiring for the second time in June. And I'd like to recognize the choir that presented itself to the Terra Symphony presentation two months ago. And that was a wonderful experience, and I was remiss not to mention it last meeting. And Monica Steinhold is leading the Caledonia Greenhouse Project, and I can attest that was a successful seed plant sale because I bought some. And I'd like to recognize that work as well.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, I bought some plants too. Sure.
I'd just like to send props to all our grads and wish them all the best on their journey, and grade 12 and in the Hazeltons and other schools, also grade 7 grads. So good luck to everyone, have a wonderful summer, and be safe.
Any other trustee reports?
No, I'd also like to thank Janet.
Yeah.
Not gonna cry,
Yeah.
but liar.
But you're awesome, and there's some big shoes to fill, and you did an amazing job coming in as a rookie. You were a phenomenal asset to us for 35 years, but I mean, you shone for us as the Board of Education, and we deeply appreciate everything that you've done for the district. Not crying. So thank you, Janet.
Thank you.
And I'm just wondering, as we go around after trustees, with the staff want to say anything tonight?
Staff want to say anything?
You know, it is a tough job, and Janet, you gave it your all. You stepped up and you took us through some times, and it is a very, 35 years. We're on YouTube, so I won't say what I was going to say at the end there, but wow, good for you. We're very lucky to have educators that are committed to education for that long and show such dedication and passion, and yay, now it's time to really enjoy and celebrate all of that success with your family, your kids, and especially your little league. So go forth, enjoy, and have many more adventures.
Thank you, Julie.
Yeah, you know, there's always something.
Any other comments? You're okay? You're fine? Okay. Any other trustees want to say anything? Oh, Karen, did you turn on your mic to say something?
Yeah, I said yes to subbing.
Okay. Okay.
There's another principle.
Yeah. All right.
We can't let her go. Thank you, Janet, for everything. It's been great working with you and wish you all the best.
Thanks, Karen.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. I don't know that we've received any questions, so I can now.
Chair?
Chair?
I do.
Oh, you do?
I
Okay,
have a
go for
question.
it, Janet. You have a question. Okay.
Shall I read the question
Oh,
first?
yes.
And then you can decide if you want it answered or not. From yesterday at 5 p.m. Hi, my name is Cole Stevens, and I'm a grade 5 teacher at Uplands Elementary. Unfortunately, I have a prior commitment on Wednesday and cannot attend the meeting to ask the following questions myself. My questions for the board are as follows. Why is the band teacher at Skeena not being paid to run the school's jazz band? Why is the band teacher at Caledonia not being paid to help run the yearly school musical when the drama teacher is being paid? Does the board have a plan to retain and attract new music and art teachers to the district, especially considering that our 3 elementary music teachers are approaching retirement? And if so, doesn't this apparent lack of support for our existing music teachers and music programs make it less likely that other teachers would want to come and work in our community?
Thoughts from trustees? Sharp?
I think those questions are operational, and they may be good questions that our superintendent, before she leaves, addresses and shares with the new superintendent.
Other comments or thoughts from trustees?
And respond to Mr. Stevens.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the board is asking you to respond to Mr. Stevens, and certainly we're concerned that we get staff. Other questions come in? No? Okay. So, a motion for adjournment. Sandy? Sure. Okay. We're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all.
I think we're still live.
Section about things like district leadership.
We're still live. Can we turn off the chit chat? Thanks. Thank you. Okay.